Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much to the devotees who have been organizing this program, and Prabhanu Prabhu for letting us take over his temple for the day. And thank you to all of you. Thank you to the number of very nice devotees who have spoken so extremely nicely today, just now. I just really appreciate that. I appreciate all of them, but I particularly appreciate that so much. It's amazing. Actually, I read Raghunath Bhatta Prabhu's offering earlier today, just not long before we left from Radharannath to drive here, and 8 pages. So, 8 pages. Really big, but just extremely nice. And hearing it again for the second time it was just wonderful. And I mean, not wonderful in the sense that he was saying things about me, but wonderful that he was able to say things like that and from the heart, and just really opening his heart. What a wonderful heart. So, when it comes to having the service, trying to carry out the service of spiritual master, on one level it's very difficult, it's very hard. I remember the first time the idea was mentioned to me was by Bhagavan Das in 1983 when we were in Mauritius. I think it was 83. In Mauritius, on our way to the airport after the opening or the installation of Radha Golokananda deities in Mauritius. And he said, maybe he was just joking, or because it seemed a little casual, but at the same time, anyway, he said, wow, would I like to become a spiritual master? And I remember at the time, just a sort of spontaneous reaction was, that's ridiculous. Yeah, it's just, it's got nothing to do with reality. Yeah, but here I am, of course, and have been for quite some years now, trying to do that service. And in this service, at least a perspective you could say is that in this service, there are two, quite clearly, connected, but also quite distinct in a sense, aspects to the service. One aspect is more, you might say, down to earth, practical, of trying to give guidance to devotees and give guidance, give some inspiration, encouragement, and from time to time try to help solving problems in their lives. all of that involves preaching and presenting what Srila Prabhupada has given us. That's a particular aspect of the service, and it's just nectar, actually. It's just nectar. I mean, particularly just presenting the message. It's also nectar when you see that you're giving some guidance to someone, and then a little later when they come back and, if they accepted the guidance and tried to put it into practice, if they come back and say, gosh, that's really helped me, thank you so much, then that's wonderful. That's really amazing, actually. And even sometimes it's surprising to think that, well, I just said a few words, kind of like something like common sense and Krishna consciousness, but it just shows if someone has embraced that sort of guidance, instruction, because we're basically just trying to represent what Prabhupada has given us. So it's really great to see the efficacy of Srila Prabhupada's teachings and what he's given us. The second aspect is more esoteric, but it's certainly very important, and that is to connect the devotees to the disciplic succession through the process of initiation, not just through the initiation, but it's connected with the other first part I just mentioned of giving the teachings like that. But there's also got a more esoteric element to it, that the idea is, and it seems that we see it working, of connecting the devotees, or at least connecting them more strongly to the disciplic succession through the initiation, or which involves the initiation, but it also involves obviously the teachings and the practices, which are part of the first part. So, that's very esoteric, you could say, because Krishna is up there somewhere. Prabhupada's with him now somewhere. I mean, he always was, but now he's particularly up there with Lord Krishna, and we don't have physical access to them exactly. I mean, of course, we have the deities, that's also an extremely important fact, but in another sense, Krishna's kind of a distant person, and now Prabhupada's kind of physically distant. But we try to connect the devotees, that's what's going on when devotees receive initiation. And I was thinking this morning, in fact, so many years I've been, having this sort of program, and normally I just sort of, whatever pops into my head when it's my time to say something, I just say that. But this time I thought, I should really think about it a bit more carefully. And what I want to say now is, it's actually something I've been thinking of carefully for a few years, and particularly maybe the last 1 year or something along those lines, is that being a spiritual master, like I said, there's the difficult aspect to it. I mean, first of all, we have to maintain the standards of Krishna consciousness. We don't want to be hypocrites and, even just mentally being somewhere else sometimes, but then being, in front of the devotees and, like that. I mean, we've got to maintain the standards of Krishna consciousness in order to set an example. But it's not just a matter of setting an example, it's a matter of, you could say, surviving in Krishna consciousness. I knew Jayatirtha very well indeed. I knew Bhagavan. He wasn't as approachable as Jayatirtha, but I knew him well, pretty well. And, but unfortunately and then there was Hansadutta before, but he wasn't a guru at that time. He was our GPC in England back in the 70s for a while. But knowing these devotees and seeing them get into spiritual difficulty, like serious, even really serious spiritual difficulty, I mean, it must be a type of a wake-up call for one who's trying to do that type of service. That we have to, not just to set an example, but just so we can continue just existing as members of Prabhupada's movement. We have to maintain the standards of chanting our rounds every day, following the regulative principles every day, and keeping the mind focused every day. These things have to be there to set an example of just to be a devotee of some sort, some at least not too unreasonable sort. In a certain sense, if you get into it, it's kind of easy because it's so nice. Krishna consciousness is just so extremely and incredibly nice. Remembering, going back many years to before I had contact with Prabhupada before. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar ki, Shri Shabadran Narayan ki, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So, it's a very important thing it's such an important thing. Krishna consciousness is just so nice. Remembering, how I was living before I saw Prabhupada, and then, some months later, about 8 months later, I moved into the temple in London. If you all found out what I was doing, you probably will just walk out right now and just say, let's forget this. Because, in all seriousness, it wasn't good. It was bad. But Krishna consciousness is so nice if we apply ourselves to it. And just, you've got to keep on the ball of it so you don't get sidetracked. But otherwise, on the whole, Krishna consciousness is just so nice. The practice, the association, what unbelievable association. And then there's the esoteric side, which is very deep and very profound and beyond our sort of practical capacity to really perceive so much. So anyway, what I've been thinking about, and the point has been raised to me, also this year was raised to me by Sri Damodar Prabhu, although I've been thinking about it for quite some time. Is that Well, being a guru, I could just say from my experience, I first gave initiation during the time of the Rath Yatra on the beachfront in 1990. So that's 36 years ago I first gave initiation. And so it's 36 years or whatever, 35, 36 years. And, at the time I was, whatever age I was, 40, even just a little less than 40. And I know in the case of, in fact, Bhagavan, he used to like mentioning it from time to time that, look, Prabhupada made him and others, including Jayatirtha, gurus. When they had been devotees for like 10 years, and they were maybe at most 30 years old or 30 odd. I don't know, but I don't know if any of them were even 40 years old, but in their 30s, I would say. And somehow, they sort of hung in. Now we've got a much better system which helps gurus to do the service of being gurus. Just a lot more support and help. So I would say in that sense it's so much easier to be a guru now than it was back in 1978, 79, the first days of that group of gurus. So anyway, yes, my point here, I feel that we have devotees here, literally, who are capable, I would say, definitely no less capable of becoming gurus than pretty much anyone who has become a guru in ISKCON, and particularly including myself. So I want to see this happen, that, among a few other things, but I want to see this happen. It's like a special consideration for me. I was just in June, middle of June, in Lithuania, visiting my god brother and a devotee who I was the sannyas guru of. His Holiness Dhirashanta Maharaj. And I saw him on June the 17th, then the 19th. He was in the process of leaving his body, and he departed, in fact, on the 26th. So exactly a week after I last saw him. So he left this world. Just a matter of a couple of weeks or something, Kraton Prabhu, who many of you might not have met, he was Gujarati, and I speak about 10 words of Gujarati, and I become, I think, one of my few accomplishments is I've become quite accomplished at using my 10 words of Gujarati. And I've seen people who I've spoken to just the basic greetings. And you can see, wow, they think, wow, he speaks Gujarati. Well, he doesn't really, but he knows 10 words and he knows how to use them strategically. Anyway, but Kraton, I knew we had a very nice relationship because I would speak to him, or at least greet him in Gujarati. But no, he passed away. He was a guru. He was a householder, but he was a guru, and he had, I don't know how many disciples, but must have been a good number, who he really helped. And you could see they were good devotees. Right, so he passed away, I don't know if it was the end of June or just very early July, but it was something like that. You may have seen on the internet, there was some coverage of it. And I don't know if anyone else has departed since then, but, don't hold your breath, it's going to happen fairly soon. So, here in South Africa, at least resident, well, of course, I'm resident when I'm here, but Parthasarati Maharaj is, I would say, pretty much resident now, and we're getting old. I'm 75. A lot of people don't make it to 75. Yeah, plenty of them don't make it. Anyway, here I am, I'm still here, sort of basically functional. Parthasarati Maharaj also, has some health challenges. That's just part of being in your 70s, just part of the course, as they say. So we need, and there's a real emphasis in ISKCON now of having local devotees who are capable enough, according to our existing standards, of becoming gurus. So I want to see this happen here, because who knows when I'll be called away. Yamaraj will give me a shout. Parthasarati Maharaj, we're all. I remember we were on the beach in Durban the day I turned 40, and Tulsidas was here. We were building the temple, and he came over to me. We were on the beach having beach pastimes, and he came over and sort of congratulated me on whatever you say. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm 40 today. And I thought, yeah, well, my mother lived to be 91, my father lived to be 80, so by the law of averages, maybe I'm about halfway there. But now I'm 75, it's 35 years later, to the day, basically. So, it's just a matter of reality. These bodies can only take so much. And we need, younger, quote unquote, if you consider someone who's 50 years old, younger, or something, that sort of age group. But we really do need, so I do want some of these devotees, including Swarup Damodar Prabhu. I tried to get him to become a GBC years ago. Anyway, let us just say he's not a GBC. My efforts didn't really work. But, devotees, these devotees who have been speaking, you could pretty much say any of them, at least, certainly a number of them. They can do it if I can do it. Oh. If I can do it, they can definitely do it. And there are others. And this will strengthen Prabhupada's movement. And like I said, if you get into it, then it's nice. It's great, actually. Particularly when you see nice things happen as a result of you intervening in this way or that with someone or ones. So, devotees who stood up and spoke, Hare Krishna to you all, but we have thoughts in our mind like this. Yeah. And we're going to pursue them. And it'll be good for everyone. It'll be good for everyone. Because that devotee who you think that, oh yeah, I know him, sure, he's okay. You know what I mean? He's okay. He's nice brother. But when he becomes a guru, and you realize, oh gosh, look at that. then you take him more seriously. Not just you take him more seriously, but you see that he is worthy of, not just worthy of, but he should be taken more seriously. I know when Prabhupada started ISKCON, his godbrothers, I don't know about all of them, but definitely I know that a number of them, they thought, what? Him? Become a guru? Prabhupada. They thought like that. Who's he? But look at who Prabhupada was or is. And when we all, his disciples, became gurus, then some were thinking exactly the same thing. Who then? Come on. But, of course, there have been problems for some. But on the whole, the gurus of ISKCON today, so many of them are doing very, very well. Just really good devotees and just helping transform the lives of so many others. So in other words, it can be done, and it must be done, and it will be done. So for my part though, again, thank you very much. And I appreciate you all came. It's Saturday. You could be, I don't know, jolling on the beach. You could be jolling in the shopping mall. However you want to put it. You could be doing this and that. Yeah, important stuff, really. But thank you. You all came here, so thank you. Frankly, I'm surprised. But along with being surprised, I'm really grateful. And in my little way, I consider myself your servant, the servant of all of you. And, I've been trying to do my best for what it's worth. I promise today, on the 15th of August, 2026, I hereby promise, I take a vow in front of all of you and Srila Prabhupada, don't worry, Jagannath Baladev Sudhaja, they can hear also, and the Tagore Sundar and Shalagram Shila. But I promise I'll continue doing my level best to help in whatever way I can, and to help any of you individually in any way if I can, if you feel you need help. Sweet Krishna Prabhu. He was so poetic, wasn't he? Wasn't he poetic? There's a saying, he's a poet and I didn't really know it. But thank you all. And for those of you who I've mentioned directly or indirectly, please get ready. Take it as a calling that somehow through myself, through Damodar Prabhu, because he did mention something about this quite seriously earlier this year. And it's fun being a guru. It's